Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Board of Selectmen meeting. August 21st. Shauna Schufelt will not be with us tonight. And it's good to be back after an absence of like 3 weeks. So happy to see all of you here and happy to be here myself. There are several acknowledgements, good things that are going on in town. Jim, do you have the Shell Stock report?
I do not have a report on it, but it was this week. I know Chris is here. He can.
Well, we're going to...
I'll be up in a minute.
Okay.
This time, just
We'll give you a couple minutes to get ready. 2 weeks ago, I went to the farmers market, and there was a recognition by Senator Rodericks and Representative Schmid and Maury May to honor our farmers and the work they do. And it was a nice event, and I think we got a photo up out of that, if I recall. So kudos to our farmers in Westport. We also have a grant award regarding the fire department, and they were able to get some federal funding, and that will be used to supplement their operating budget and buy equipment and so on and so forth. So kudos to them. The next meeting is at an unusual time because we flipped around the meetings this summer to the confusion of everyone, including the chair. But the next meeting is Monday, September 11th, and that's 3 weeks from now, I guess. But that puts us back on our regular every other week schedule. Okay. Just anything else from select board members in the way of introduction? Okay, the first item on the agenda, by the way, this is, I do have to mention that the meeting is being recorded under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F. So, that takes care of the housekeeping chores, and the first area of discussion are 2 public hearings. The first is a request from Charles F. Sheehan of Affordable Auto Rentals and Sales for a Class 2 motor vehicle license at 1052 State Road, Westport, with a total of 40 cars, and James Hay as manager. Jim, could you sort of lead us into this topic?
I don't know if the applicants are here, if they want to come up and speak, but there was a request for a Class 2 motor vehicle license at 1052 State Road. This has been before the board a couple of times in the past. Let them present.
Okay. Gentlemen, could you just briefly outline your business plan?
Yep, the business plan is to take, the business was started by someone else, the rental company that's currently there. Charles purchased the corporation. We're currently leasing the property. We have plans to purchase the property in the near future, providing all licenses are permitted for what we wish to do, which would be a full-service dealership and rental company. And you know, we think we know that property hasn't always had the best track record from what we can find online, so we hope we can turn that around. I have 20 plus years in the business, and he has his whole life. I come from a franchise world. I was a finance director for a Tarbox Toyota, along with other you know, top names in the business, and customer retention and satisfaction has always been pounded into us. So we hope to bring that to the you know, private sector.
Okay. Any background information, police report, and
There is a police report on file. The police department does not recommend approval of the license. They go into some more detail in the report itself. That report was issued last week.
Okay. That's a hard thing for us to get around, you might understand.
Is there a reason why?
Well, it'd be in the report.
Have you read it?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Jim, could you recap that for us?
Yeah, I can, let's see.
I mean, I have it
The
right.
bottom line is, given Hayes' questionable actions while employed at 2 separate auto sales locations, as well as the recent building department actions against Hay, I do not believe the license should be issued as long as Hay is directly involved in the day-to-day operations as a manager at the proposed new business. Some of these the complaint goes back to 2019. The recent one with the cease and desist with the building inspector was May 15, 2023. Yes.
Do you have any comments on any of that, gentlemen?
I'd have to read it to understand what exactly that's pertaining to.
Take your time.
You know, I mean, Mr. Sheehan has put a lot of money into this, and, you know, I can remove myself as manager and resign and put this all on him.
What is the pleasure of the committee, and what are your thoughts on this matter?
I don't think we should take any action at this time, not with the police report we have.
Would there be a way that you gentlemen can sit with the police and discuss this matter, and perhaps iron out the differences?
Gladly.
And that would be what we'd be looking for, because it's very hard for us to approve this with their recommendation, which is a negative one. But we know there are always two sides to a story. Lieutenant Kudu is pretty conversant, and a pretty good guy in my estimation. And if you could take the next 2 weeks to discuss this with the police, with Lieutenant Kudu himself or others, and reach a resolution, we would find that to be acceptable, and we would hope that to be the case.
Providing that this would be turned around.
Yeah, or modified, shall we say. Maybe there's
Understand.
some points here that are not accurate,
Correct.
maybe some need embellishment, and we'd be open to that information.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to deny licenses. We want to encourage business. Appreciate you doing that. But it is something we want to get around, and in the past, there have been times when the police have worked with an applicant, reached a solution that was satisfactory to us, and that's, we would hope you could do that, and we'd meet on September 11th.
Yeah,
Like
this definitely
investigation.
didn't happen. Okay.
And we will talk to the police. I'll ask Jim to do it and say we'd like to come and talk to them, discuss it, and perhaps resolve it. And that would be good. If the police are satisfied, we'd be satisfied, I would think.
Yeah, could we find out if we need to vote on it, or you want to continue it to this hearing?
You could continue the hearing to the next meeting.
Yeah, this is a public hearing.
You want to see if anybody's here before I make that motion?
Well, yeah, since it is a public hearing, we always welcome comments regardless, but at a public hearing, people have the right to speak, so
We need a time
if
certain.
anybody wants to come forth, have any
We need a time
opinions.
certain for the next meeting to hear, to continue. 6:05 again? All right, seeing that, I'll make a motion that we continue this until our next meeting, September 11th at 6:05 PM.
Second.
A motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Also say aye. The motion carries unanimously with one abstention. Well, gentlemen, we hope you'd work with us on this, and maybe we can come to a solution that will be satisfactory to all. We will meet on September 11th. This public hearing is being continued. And I wish you the best of luck.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, did you get the names? You have them?
You need that.
What's that? No, I get a copy.
Okay, that will be continued as mentioned. The next item under public hearing, there are two public hearings. This one was continued from July 24th, 2023. It's a request from the Harbor Advisory Committee for a slow no-wake zone from the northern and the west branch of the river, from the northern shore of Kirby Brook, perpendicular to 409 Pine Hill Road, then north to the head bridge, Old County Road. So we have people present here who'd like to come forth. Jim, do you wish to introduce the topic to us in terms of the background?
I would defer to Chris to give us the update on the area in question.
I'm John Azevedo. I'm on the Harbor Advisory Committee. I'm here to support the motion.
Hi there. Christopher Leonard, good evening, Director of Marine Services. So we have a chronic problem, and it's not just Westport, it's everywhere, with the use of personal watercrafts. Personal watercrafts they tried to ban them, just doing a little bit of research on this whole thing. They tried to ban personal watercrafts in East Hampton, Long Island, and they found that that was discrimination against boating, and so the ban was then lifted. As long as the state of Massachusetts is offering registrations for a personal watercraft, it is then considered a vessel and it can operate out in the water. Personal watercrafts or jet skis do have some conditions, and this is coming from the state, that a personal watercraft shall not operate unless at headway speed within 150 feet from shore. Now, of course, when we have the boating public and say somebody in a 13-foot Boston whaler, this does not apply, but you are responsible for the wake that you are throwing from your vessel at any time. So it is your responsibility to be a prudent mariner. So we have a lot of complaints to the Harbor Master Department, and we took this up at one of our meetings, specifically in the area of north of Hicks Bridge. And we are trying to find a solution as to slowing jet skis down in that area. One of the solutions that we talked about with the Harbor Advisory Committee was finding out where the river tapers to 300 feet. And after we find out where we draw the line in the sand that the river tapers to 300 feet, any jet ski beyond that point, per the state of Massachusetts, has to go at headway speed. So we talked with some of the homeowners here. With the problem, I did reach out to the owners of Osprey Kayak, and I asked them if they had any of their customers complaining of jet skis, basically jet skis versus paddlecraft, and if there was any problem that they have had. The owner said no, that they have not had any problems. We've looked, I think, in the police records, and we don't have any major catastrophes, but we're here to listen to a problem that is before us, try to come up with a solution as reasonably as we can, and what we came to was to say anything north of Kirby Brook would be slow no wake to the head of Westport. And we are here for your help and guidance to take a look at this issue and to make some sort of decision as to some of the solutions for this problem. So that pretty much in a nutshell is we're trying to find a way to keep the public safe. Now, I don't know if the extent of this is to say now and this is where we open Pandora's box and say, well, everywhere that the Westport River is less than 300 feet, is that then a slow no wake? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is part of the question. And this is something that, okay, if a jet ski can have to go headway speed within 150 feet from shore and a boat does not, are the jet skis ruining the fun for the boating public then? And this is all part of the question. We might take a look into town council and see if we are discriminating to the boating public because of jet skis. But there is a problem where an accident could happen, and we are trying to do our best to get ahead of it.
Are you going to be talking about multiple solutions, or just
This is the one solution, to draw the line in the sand at Kirby Brook where the river goes to 300 feet, so automatically any jet ski would have to go slow, being within the 150 foot from shore rule. So anything, we'll just say north of Kirby Brook and there's less than 300 feet, this would then be the start of the slow no wake zone per the state of Massachusetts and their rules regarding personal watercraft.
Will that be clearly designated to jet skiers?
There is going to be a slow no wake put right in the middle of the river. There would be a slow no wake buoy put right in the middle of the river in that location. And that would be the telltale for the boating public to slow down. And that would be the initial starting point for that heading north.
Is there at the other end a buoy or something to indicate that this zone is completed?
Well, the river pretty much goes up to nothing. I've
Yeah.
never seen a motorized, anything with a motor north of the head bridge. I'm sure they have. But once you keep going up there, it turns into a kind of a river where there's rocks and things like that.
Okay.
My mother-in-law has a house up there, so I know where it kind of goes into, kind of, just turns into a brook of sorts.
You don't need a demarcation.
I don't need
of
there would only be one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
as long as it does the job.
Yes.
And in your view, this is in the interest of public safety.
Yes.
And regarding the folks in Hampton, Long Island, I assume, we're not going to have that kind of an issue here because our action is not draconian.
It's a road that I would not want to go down in being discriminatory towards a certain watercraft. And they learn the hard way by going to court. And that's something that I
Yeah.
don't want to do.
Well, the circumstances don't suggest that kind of action anyway.
No, we're not asking you to say no jet skis in the Westport River.
Yeah. Select board members, comments, questions, thoughts?
Could you just give an idea, Chris, because you said there was no police incidents or anything. How many jet skis are we talking that's causing this concern?
Multiple, because when you're on a jet ski, jet skis can travel at a high rate of speed. You can cover a lot of ground.
Right.
I mean, it is basically the sport bike or the street bike of the Westport River. As somebody that lives abutting Route 88,
Right.
they're there. And it's something that it can be like catching fireflies, where they pop up, then they disappear, then they're gone. And there's no real rhyme or reason. Of course, weekends are busier, but of course there could be a Wednesday afternoon where there is a group of people that have skis and they just want to go out and have fun.
Yeah, if I could. What's the punishment, the fine, et cetera, if they don't pay attention to it?
Within 100, anywhere from, depending on if you are speeding, it's a sliding scale. It could be from $50 to $100 for the first offense. Of course, if you are speeding through reckless endangerment type of stuff, it goes up. If you are in like a swimming zone or area, we would want to find somebody and not let them off easy for something like that. But if you were just then 140 feet from shore going from A to B, it's more of an educational type of thing.
Okay, other comments from board members? If not, this is a public hearing. Once again, we welcome people to come to the microphone, and you need to identify yourself for the recording secretary.
Thank you.
Right ahead.
How much time do I have? 3 minutes?
5
That-
minutes.
5 minutes, very good. Well, first I wanted to thank you very much for your service to the town. I really appreciate it. We all understand how hard you work, so thank you. Jonathan Levy, 418G Drift Road. I live on a property that my family and I have owned for over 58 years, since 1966. We've seen a lot of change in those 58 years. Recently, and I would say in the last 10 years, we've seen a lot more intensive use of our area of the river. So just to give you an orientation, 418G is about halfway between Hicks Bridge and the Head, and our property on the waterfront is just across from Widow's Point. That's the place north of Kirby Brook, probably by a quarter of a mile, where the river narrows once again quite dramatically, and there's a sharp turn in the river as well at that point. So our property is right on the water. We sit on our deck all the time. We see what's going on. So I want to correct a few things. Well, first let me start by saying I'm a little confused because not only does the state have a restriction, but my understanding is that the town's waterway rules and regulations also restrict the use of personal watercraft. I'm not sure of that, but I believe so. I read it just the other day.
Mr. Whitfield, can you respond to that?
Yes, the town of Westport, at some point in time, does have a 400-foot rule, where it is a stronger, it is stronger than 150 feet. I believe that if that were to go to court, it would get defaulted to the state level. I feel like 400 feet is a little unreasonable, and it was something that is in the rules and regulations from before my time, and it's something that needs to be looked at. And this is, of course, my own feeling.
Okay.
So if I may continue. So we do not believe it's unreasonable. We think that it was in the wisdom of this body to implement such a restriction because there were good reasons, and we can only surmise what the reasons were. I would guess there are two good reasons. First, life safety. We're seeing people swimming in the river right off of our shore now. We're seeing as many of 30 kayakers at a time right off of our waterfront. We're seeing as many as 6 paddleboarders all in a row, sometimes hidden around the corner. In terms of the number of jet skis, on a typical Saturday, during high tide, we can see as many as half a dozen jet skiers zoom by our property. The issue here is actually quite restricted with all deference to Chris and his wonderful work. It's a very short window of time when the jet skiers and also the boats that have more than 9.5 horsepower or 9.9 horsepower zooming by our property. It's at high tide. So there's normally about an hour and a half to 2 hour window when this is occurring. So what is really being asked here? Oh, life safety? We're worried about somebody getting hurt or even worse. Then the other part is conservation. We all know that one of the reasons why there's restrictions on powercraft in narrow waterways is because it's detrimental to wildlife, to vegetative habitats, and to the shoreline. That's why the riverfront often has restrictions. So it's a dual purpose, and they're both equally important. So I think what we're asking for is enforcement. I think a buoy is going to be fine. By the way, many of these craft are originating upriver of Kirby Brook, not from the other direction. So a buoy would have to be posted on the other side as well. I don't know where the right location would be, but many of these boats are docked and jet skis are docked between our property and the Head. So there should be a marker from that direction as well so that people know which direction the restricted zone is. But the other part is enforcement. We need Chris and his crew up there on a weekend during high tide on Saturday and Sunday. That's what we need, and I know that he's short-staffed already, and he has plenty of activities to mind down by the harbor already. So I think this is a question of funding, and it's a question of manpower. Whether it's Chris or the police, I believe both are empowered to enforce this restriction. Thank you once again for all your hard work. We really appreciate it. We know what you do. And I hope that you'll understand how important this issue is. It's really a critical issue. It's not something that can be allowed to just continue on. It needs to be addressed now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levy.
My name is Dave Simcoe. I have lived in this town since 1966, same year, I guess Mr. Levi did. One of the things that, I've lived here for 22 years. I live 300 yards from Kirby Brook. What I have an issue with mostly is we're trying to restrict the entire boating public for 2 miles for one particular vessel, a jet ski. I sit on my porch, look over the river, I don't see any big issues. I don't have a jet ski, by the way, my whole family doesn't own them. The only one I've ever used was by the police department. I used to be on the Marine Patrol, I'm retired from the police department after 33 years. The last 3 years I've been a reserve, so I'm still in touch. We have 3 complaints. That's all. The 2 complaints, one was from Mr. Levi, the other one is from another gentleman at this 418 Drift Road. I'm starting to think, because it wasn't generated from a vessel, we have no complaints from anybody in a kayak or a vessel or a swimmer, that this is a noise complaint masked and I want public safety. This is the way you address something like that. I don't like to listen to the motorcycles, say on Route 88 from Hicksbridge to Charlotte White Road, but I'm not gonna ask for a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, so. If I send my grandkids for ice cream, it's gonna come back with a frap. And that's how long it's gonna take them to get to the head store and back. You know what I mean? This is, you get out in front of, from the northern terminus to Widow's Point, I got 469 feet. I don't have the 300 feet. And I don't know if I can give it to Chris or if you guys want to look at it. No? And in front of the property that Mr. Levi owns, I've got 367 feet to that same location. If this no-wake zone would be put into place, it should be put just north of, I think it's 31 Amy's Way, where it's the narrowest, which is below the 300 feet, all the way up to Everett Cove, which then it opens up behind Fallon Drive to 550 feet. So there's plenty of room to wakeboard, jet ski. I've taken all my kids, my grandkids too, everybody's out in that river. We're gonna make the river not fun anymore if we start to restrict it. I mean, a place to do this is in that area, not Shiprock or in the middle of the channel. I don't think Chris wants us there.
Could you repeat the area he's suggesting?
What is it?
Amy's Way to what?
Amy's Way to Everett Cove.
Everett.
What I'd like to know from either the Harbor Advisory Board, and I applaud their work, they, you know, it's a volunteer board that goes out, they get a complaint, they want to act on it, they want to fix something. I get it. But we shouldn't just knee-jerk reaction. Let's just put up a no-wake zone. If we want a no-wake buoy, let's put it back at Hicks Bridge where it hasn't been there in a year. That's where the issue was. When you launch a kayak, a boat, or anything else at Hicks Bridge, if boats are coming zipping by, they put in and they take off to Lakes Island, and that's where the no-wake zone should be. And it's been there for years. I don't see the buoy this year. So if we got one floating around, maybe we should put it back there. One of the questions I have for the Harbor Advisory, or Chris, is do we have any documented complaints? Anybody that was in the water, a kayak, I checked with the kayak shop, I got the same thing that he did. Rowers, the Dama Voyage, check with them. Anybody, well, I see them 6 o'clock in the morning, they don't really get a lot of jet ski complaints at that point. We've got any criminal complaints, anything written under 90B, which is the waterway, the boating laws in Massachusetts. I checked with the environmental police also. They haven't had any interactions with anybody up there. They're also out there now and then. And how much enforcement can we expect? And I know the answer to that because they've got enough with the hornet's nest they got down in the mouth of the harbor and the entire harbor area. So to send the boat all the way up here. The first time I saw the harbor master this year, north of Hicks Bridge, was August 10th at 6:30 at night, checking the sticker on my boat. And I went out and talked to them. They're great guys. I mean, you know, they went up for ice cream also. So I know they went all the way up to check everybody's sticker. So, but I just want this board to have a clear and accurate representation of the facts before we just make 2 miles of a restriction for the entire boating public. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, and I thank you all. My name is Eileen Moncrief. I live at 548B Drift Road. We are on the river, and I have not lived in Westport my whole life, and I've only lived on Drift Road for about 4 years. I've lived in town for about 10. I have probably more questions. From my deck, I can see the rowers, I can see the paddle boarders. Just this evening, there were 3 in a row while we were having a quick supper. The river is very much used for recreation, day and well into the evening, and it's really an advantage for this town. It's really very beautiful. There have been incidences that may not have been reported to the police. I know that I and other neighbors have been disturbed by what we have seen in the way of these personal watercraft users and how they have raced up the river, if you will. And so it's not just one going up and enjoying themselves. It's usually 2 or 3 that are racing. They may be in tandem. It's very interesting. They tend to be young men. So I have never really been on a personal watercraft, so I can't really explain why you would have to go up the river so fast. I think that some of the things that have to be taken into consideration is the conservation. The wake is just, it's very rough. I have seen some of the people on the personal watercraft go after the swans, and during the winter and spring, we have as many as 22 swans, and not everybody likes swans, but they are along the river, and because of the way the river ebbs and flows and the edges, there's sort of a safety area. Where our dock is, I have seen paddle boarders, I have seen kayakers come in and just get safer to get away from the wake and till it disturbs. So I think part of the issue is, who do you call? Who do you call in this town on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday evening when people are going so fast, when you know that there's other issues? In the course of all that you have to consider, this is very minor, but this is, I think, a very important resource of the town, and I thank you.
Thank you.
I'm David Lalima. I live at 418D Drift Road. I have a cottage on the river. I have a catbird seat on the entire area we're talking about, and I've owned that property for 38 years. And since I moved there 8 years ago, I can tell you, and I agree with the comment, and I'm sort of sad that we're going to operate, in this instance, on data complaints. I can tell you how many times I've called Chris, to the point where it was obscene, absurd, ridiculous to keep calling him, because he couldn't do anything. So the fact that there's no criminal complaints or complaints really is an appropriate data point for this conversation. If you sit there, on any of us who sit on that river, I sit on the east, I'm on the west side of the East Branch, right on Widow's Point. That's where my cottage is, right on the point. And we have a bifurcated process here. We have recreational activity, boat activity, kayakers, waterboarders, swimmers, and then we have nature. Eagles flying around, great blue herons, green herons, swans, the dreaded cormorants, you name it, they're all in this area, bucolic area, that we've turned into a raceway. We've turned it into a raceway. That's what's going on. Now, none of you sit there and watch this day in and day out. We have a problem of enforcement. Indeed, Chris and I have talked about this. Call the environmental police. Okay, oh, hello. Come on over. These guys just zip by. You can't catch them. You can't find them. Okay? And they're living on both sides. So some of them are living north, some of them are living south. It's a raceway. It's Route 88 as far as they're concerned. So you visualize in your mind having no speed limit over, let's say, a school area where the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. But because I have a jet ski, I can fly up and down the river anytime I want. It's absurd, really, when you think about it. Now, this issue is very complicated because you got waterway, you got... Personally, I don't think it's just jet skis, because I've seen people going up there when it's high tide, because when it's low tide, you can't go there. It's just too low. I can almost walk across the river from my house to the other side at Widow's Point. But once high tide comes, you know, I don't begrudge boaters wanting to boat. That's not what's going on here. This is a very bucolic, rustic area. People want to talk about Westport, the beauty of Westport. Well, just go over to Widow's Point North. That's what's there. And what we have now is a raceway. And if it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, what's the number? What number do we need? I think any number is too much for me to live where I live, to sit and watch that, and know the police can't do anything because there's no boat over there. I'm not asking Chris. I've asked Chris countless times, what can we do? By the time I call Chris up, it's already zipped by like a firefly. So, and then lastly, I'd like to say, I mean, this is complicated. Nothing here, nothing in this world we are in now is simple. We know that, okay? But I think this is a thoughtful approach to trying to at least experiment with putting some restrictions on that portion of the river. And if other parts of the river need to be restricted, you know, the river it's got a lot of, I guess the last thing when you think about it, the river isn't all Route 88, and you have to think about it that way. It is not all Route 88. There are parts of the river that just don't meet that criteria, and people should be using it in an appropriate way, like you would in the school district. And I think in some ways, this is a conservation area where we are. And indeed, people are swimming there, and I'm just telling you, the lawyer in me is kind of telling you, you're going to have a lawsuit one of these days. Somebody's going to, because the way the river goes and the speed at which these things are going, and there are people who don't have mechanized vehicles, who are in the water, paddling, swimming, whatever. It's an accident waiting to happen. So do we want an accident first before we change the rules? I like to be the lawyer on that case, because you're on notice right now. It's dangerous. And lastly, I'd like to thank Chris and his board, because they were extremely professional when I went there with my wife and we talked to them. They listened to us. They're respectful, professional, competent, and I just wanted to say that publicly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Levy, I normally don't have people come back to the microphone, but go ahead, if you will be brief.
Very brief. I just want to say the rules don't need to be changed. You have the rules. You have the rules both local and state. We're just asking for a very modest enforcement provision of posting 2 buoys. Let's start there, because my belief is that the people that are doing this aren't doing it out of ill will. They just don't know. So they just need to be informed that they can't do that there. That's all there is to it.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Good evening. Mark Schmid. I realize that what you're considering is a restriction on this one area of the river. And we're talking about public safety, and we're talking about the issues of conservation and how you protect the river. Because it's not just jet skis, but any vessels with outboards at low tide can churn up the bottom of the river, and that kills mollusks and other marine life. And it's not good for the river. What I'm here to suggest, and I hope that the Harbor Advisory Committee and the Harbor Master and this board would consider other parts of the river. There are areas where, both on the East Branch and West Branch, where would benefit if we could have buoys out there with signs of no wake, 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, because of the damage that larger boats will do as they go through some of these really extremely sensitive, environmentally sensitive marshes. I live, well, one area I can speak about, and I know there are other areas on the river where this could apply to, but if you don't have a chart here, do you? But if you looked at Speaking Rock, if you know where that is, from there south to the Let, it encompasses, and over to the bridge, it encompasses something called Big Ram Island, which is really an enormous marsh. And there are very large marshes there, which I will tell you are probably some of the most beautiful marshland that you'll find in the state, maybe in New England. And I've seen recently, and it's been reported, everybody knows that there's been an increase in the number of people who have boats. I don't blame them. I mean, it's a beautiful river, and I want them to continue to enjoy it. But I think we would all benefit by having restrictions on what size vessels and, well, not even size, just the speed. I mean, you can have a large boat, but if you're only going 5 miles an hour, you're not creating a wake. And so it doesn't have to apply, this isn't something just about jet skis. I think there are areas of the river, if we want to protect what we all love about this town. I mean, that river flows from the very north of the town right through down to the south. And it's what draws people here. It's what enhances our property values. And we just don't want to endanger or destroy the very thing that gives us so much value. And unfortunately, yeah, I'd like to see everybody enjoying the river, and they can. It would just be that there are areas where you can do that, where you could open up the throttle if that's the case, and areas where we should have slow, no wake zones to really protect the wildlife and the marine life. So I'd hope you'd consider that, expanding this and adding more buoys in certain areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Other speakers?
Mr. Chair, I just want to give you these two other pieces of paper. It just gives you a better view. And here's the widows, just so you can.
Yep.
Thank you, Officer.
My retired, But I just want to, one other thing I wanted to say, but the complaints that I have from the police department here, one was July 27th of 2020, the other one is June 20th of 2022. And the one that's from Osprey Kayak, the only one, and I don't think it originated from the kayak shop itself, it's just male party and his wife stuck in the middle of the river on kayaks because there's not enough water. That was the extent of the only kayak complaint we got. So, and that was in August of 2022, which I guess they called the harbor master, they called the fire department, they called us. We basically told them, stand up, and you can walk to the gate. And they got back in when the tide went in. But that was, that's what listen, jet skis to me are like little hornets. You know what I mean? They buzz around, they bother you a little bit, and then you don't bother them, they don't bother you. But I can tell you this much, as far as, we shouldn't restrict the 2 miles of the river just for, you know, especially when, like I said, there's other places that open up larger. The place between just north of Amy's Way to, just south of Amy's Way to Everett Cove is the narrowest part, which I would understand that, you know, which should be restricted for visibility purposes, probably would be the most accurate. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer. Are there any other people who wish to speak this evening? Okay. Thank you for your comments, which are all very insightful in my view. Select board members, what would be an idea that any of you have about proceeding?
What does Chris think about Mr. Simcoe's recommendation?
To move the area from
just to-
31 Ames Way.
Roughly to that area where he says it makes the most sense in his opinion.
Well, this is his opinion and makes
Correct.
the most sense, but we would have to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
And we would have to look at it again. I can't make a decision right now in saying that this is right, or that I'm right, or that anybody else is right. It's something that needs to be further studied and to think about some sort of enforcement. I can tell the board this evening that the Harbor Master Department has $10,000 for part-time as-needed people to keep the river safe, on top of 2 full-time people. And there's a lot of things that we need to do on that river on a daily basis. Sitting in front of somebody's house waiting for a jet ski, unfortunately at this time, is not one of them. We'll go up there a few times a year tagging. We'll go up there for shellfish water quality and shellfish testing. To park somebody north of Hicks Bridge, we would have to create a jet ski task force or something to that effect that would have to target jet skis specifically. And I will tell you right now, I have 3 boats that can get north of Hicks Bridge. One of them is a 17-foot Carolina skiff with a 40 horse. Another one is the old Shellfish aluminum plate skiff with a 40 horse. And we have a 24-foot Carolina skiff with a 90 horse that is used for transporting shellfish. I tell my people, do not hold the Marine Services boats wide open thinking that you are going to chase a jet ski, because you are not. It's hard on the equipment, and unfortunately, I'm not sure what the police policy is on chasing street bikes and this kind of stuff. That's out of my wheelhouse. But it's a problem when you have something that goes that fast, and it is like, by the time that I would get down there with a skiff, they would be gone. And now I'm just looking at anybody who's wearing the color green to pull over. I would have most success because I also live on Drift Road, that I would take the town truck to Hicks Bridge and I would wait for somebody to come from the north back to me. So I wish this had a simpler answer, that we could deploy something like this to instantly solve the problem, but it's not that easy.
I would suggest they go to have another meeting on it, make sure it's posted so the public knows, these people can go. Write down any complaints you have, do a log, forward it to the police department, because it doesn't have to be you. Like Mr. Simcoe said, there used to be Marine Patrol on such jet skis with police officers.
Yep.
So if it's a problem, they could do that again. Obviously, Bowness Beach gets a little crazy too, especially with everybody. So let's just get our act together.
Yep.
Figure out, look at the area Mr. Simcoe recommended, see if that works. And like I said, post the meeting, and then you could get together with the police department, make a little log, like I believe it's Mr. Lima said he talked to you. Make a little log, get together with the police chief, because they did it before, we'll do it again.
The logs would come from the previous speakers.
That's fine.
Because those would be the people that would be calling, and the question is, who do they call? Do they call me? I don't want to flood the police department on a Saturday with a nuisance call.
But they'll log it, Chris.
Sure. Which is fine.
It's the same thing.
Which is great.
It's the same thing with Route 6. Between 4 and 6, we've got people going 80 and a 45 everywhere in town.
Sure.
It's up to you if you want to take Mr. Levine.
Yeah, may I just respond to that?
No,
No.
I don't mean to be rude, but
Okay,
the public comment
okay.
is finished.
I'm just a little offended by this notion of calling the police. I mean, I could call the police 10 times a day if you wanted me to. If that's the way you want to make a decision right now, is calling the police. I've been calling the harbor master, who I would presume would be the logical person to call, not the police. So when someone starts saying there's not enough police data to support this idea, no one on that river is calling the police. We're calling the harbor master, because it's a river issue. So if you want us to call the police, we'll start calling the police. They won't like it. I assure you of that.
You could
That's
just...
all I'm saying. So if that's what you want us to do.
Thank you. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing then, is this by its nature is something we have to continue? It's not going to be resolved tonight?
Not from my point of view, no.
No.
Is the select board in agreement with that?
Yeah, let's look into it a little further, put a little more research into it, and come back, look at that area particularly,
And when should we come back to have further discussion?
whenever Chris is ready.
We would have to have a harbor advisory meeting, and then we would have to come back
Yeah, so
after the next harbor advisory meeting.
So when would that be?
Well, we can
It'll
schedule
be in
one,
September.
yeah, probably early September,
Yeah, because we have
first
a
week or two.
meeting on September 11th and September the 25th, Jim?
It'd probably-
25th, yes.
It'd probably make more sense to put it in effect next season anyways. Could you,
Right, you're
through the
not
chair,
gonna
can you look into that buoy that was brought to our attention too?
Yeah, at Hicksbridge, absolutely, yeah, it's not the second complaint. Things get cut off, we have over 80 private aids to
That's
navigation.
fine, just-
They get cut off constantly, we're always chasing, and it's triage. It's, the job that I do is triage. Human life takes precedent, to a lot of other things. But, you know, we have our, what we need to do and our list of things to do, and it's triage, so.
So would this possibly be an item for September the 25th at this select board?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the only question is about the meeting. Just, I've looked on the town's website from the assessors to zoning, and I don't find anything for harbor advisory. So I don't know, I can't find minutes, I can't find posted meetings for that particular heading. I looked under the harbor master, and I get some forms and some other stuff, and I looked under the shellfish, just in case it was put in the wrong spot. So if there's some way we can, I don't know when these meetings are, or, I mean, other than tonight when I can hear it verbally, but I'm saying, it's just, how are we notified? That's what, how can, is it posted somewhere else? other
They're
than-
posted in town hall.
Town hall.
Yeah.
Just, so I have to come to town hall and see where it's not on a website anywhere?
You can actually sign up for e-alerts with the town clerk, and every meeting you will be notified of.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, officer. Okay, so do we need a motion here, or is it just, we're going to, Jim, would we continue it?
Yeah.
I
Motion to
say we-
continue
we
to October, to September 25th.
25th.
September 25th, do we need a time? Was it a hearing? I don't remember.
We can do
Yeah, this
six-
is a public
It is
hearing. We
here.
should do this at the beginning, I would think.
Yeah, you want to say 6:15, we already have the 6:05, no, that's the 11th. So, I'm sorry, repeat the date again, please?
6:05 to 25th.
6:05, September 21st, we're continuing.
No, it's September
25th.
25th.
September 25th, sorry.
Okay? All right, well, thank everybody for participating in
Thank you.
your views. And Mr. Azevedo and Chris, good to see you again.
Yes, thank you for all you guys. There was something you wanted to talk
About,
about.
shell stock.
There you go.
Shell stock. Yes, we are having a meeting tomorrow night where everything is coming together. We have a lot of ticket sales in different groups and everything. We will put everything together. We believe at this point in time that we did as good, hopefully a little better than last year. Last year, we were able to raise over $27,000 in the 4 hours of the event. We're hoping that we're on par, at least, for this. But we had maybe a little bit more online sales, but we're just getting all the hard tickets, all the
Yeah,
stuff,
okay.
the expenses, and we're getting that
But it's a
together.
successful event.
It was a successful event, and knock on wood, knock on wood.
You
for
can
the
thank the
tickets.
class of '81 for increasing your numbers, that's what we had our reunion.
That's right. Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
all.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for participating. We appreciate all of your comments. Okay, continuing now, we're into a different section, licenses and permits. The first item is 2A, a request from the Holy Ghost Club of Westport, Inc., 171 Sodom Road, for a change of manager to the alcohol beverage retail license from Cassandra Canberra to Roland D. Souza. Jim?
Mr. Chair, I don't think we have a police report for this one yet. That didn't come in today.
No, it didn't come through yet, but he just got he's Roland D. Souza is the one that gets all of the one-day liquor permits. There's been several reports done on him already.
Favorable, I am assuming.
It's favorable,
Yes.
yes.
Well, we could approve this subject to any further reports that are needed. I don't know if there are any based on what you just said. Jim, what do you say?
You know, I'd recommend approval subject to a favorable police report.
Killing me, Jim. We got two others on here. All right, we'll do it for this, I'll move it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? And there's one abstention. So 4 in favor, 1 abstention, nobody opposed. Okay, that's done. Thank you. The next item is request from the South Coast Harvest Festival LLC for a common victualler license for the Harvest Festival to be held at the Westport Fairgrounds, 200 Pine Hill Road, September 29th to October 1st, 2023. Also request to hang a road banner from August 20th to October 1st. That's the item. Jim?
And so again, on this one, we don't have a police report. We do have time to put this to the next meeting and still get it addressed before it's needed. This event is not until the end of September, beginning of October. And then as far as the banner goes, I haven't found any specific rules and regulations on these banners, but normally it's for nonprofits in town
Mhm.
functions as opposed to a for-profit type event. So the board may want to consider that with the banner, but yeah. If
Okay.
you want to wait till the next meeting, we will have a police report.
We wouldn't, or just through the chair, we wouldn't get a police report on how many people.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Can you speak a little louder?
We wouldn't request a police report. I didn't request a police report on this particular item, the common victim.
Yeah, are you saying we need to do that? Jim?
Well, I'd like to do it just because of the event itself. You're looking at a 2-3 day event, they're going to need police details out there. And
It's probably the safer thing to do. Have we had the Harvest Festival in recent years? This is the first one,
This
right?
is the first one.
year.
Yeah, in a long time.
No, it looks like a nice event, I just,
Yeah,
I believe they're here.
We're available for questions.
okay. Well, feel free to speak and talk about this a little bit and tell us anything you want. We appreciate your effort.
My name is Michelle Susan, my husband's name, Michelle Susan Peg, sorry.
go to the microphone, please.
Microphone,
Come
chairs, one or the other.
Yeah, you can come up here too if you wish. This is more user-friendly.
I grew up at Sylvan Nursery. I started working there at age 14, and I've spun off and become an award-winning garden designer. I participated in the Rhode Island Spring Flower and Garden Show for 25 years, and the show owner retired, leaving many of the gardeners from the South Coast region without a place to showcase their gardens. My husband and I have been volunteering at the fairgrounds for 10 years doing the gardens over there. And every time we do the gardens, we think what a special place it would be to try and recreate a fall flower and garden show. Many people had been missing the Harvest Festival, so we thought we would combine the themes and create a fall garden and flower show, showcasing some of the area's talented garden designers and contractors and artists. We're going to have scarecrow displays, garden displays, garden talks and demonstrations, antique tractor display, antique boat display, fall food, some vendors, some live music, and some different entertainment. We have the Eyes on Owls program scheduled to come on the Saturday. We have a professional pumpkin carver. We have children's activities planned. And so we're hoping it'll be the first of many.
Yeah, I enjoyed them way back when. I think
Yeah.
I still have a sweatshirt.
Yeah, we tracked down
Cornucopia.
Betsy McDonald to do a poster for us, and she's going to continue that tradition that was well loved by many. And
And while it's not a nonprofit, it is certainly a community event,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
our mission is
the
to,
profit is not the mission. It's
we approached the fairground committee in February, and they gave us an okay to have the show there, and it's in line with their mission to promote agriculture.
Mhm.
And the Flower and Garden Show was really one of the best things that ever happened to my career because it gave me a place to show my work. And so I met many other contractors and gardeners and farmers through the show. And it's just kind of a nice place to network with the community. You can educate them on different things, different sustainability, different topics that are important, pollinator gardens and beekeeping and things like that. So that's our mission, not really to make money, but just to create this show, create something for the public, and give us something to do. So we've been working on it full-time since February, and we hope for your support.
Well, I think you'll have our support. We just want to take that one last step here. Jim, what can we do here? Order the report that you speak of and then have this at the next meeting, or would that be too soon?
We have been in touch with the police department about a detail, and we've been in touch with the fire department also and the Board of Health. We're working with Joe for the food vendors, we're working with the fire department for easements and a walkthrough and things like that. Inspections, and, you know, we're definitely gonna be having a detail, on site. We don't know how many people to expect, it's the first year, but we're prepared with parking and staff, and, we have a capable team. It's not our first rodeo, our team is experienced, and, I think we'll do a good job.
I'm sure you
If you
will.
have any concerns, let us know.
And this is a great thing for Westport. I'm going to be there.
Great.
Maybe I can get another sweatshirt. So do you want to complete those, whatever reports you need, and meet next time or the time after that?
Yeah, defer to the board, if we could get a full report by the next meeting, if that's the pleasure of the board.
I'm sure it's going to be fine.
Yeah, we owe it to the neighbors.
That would be cutting into the time that the banner could be across the road if,
Well, the banner
is
generally-
that out of the question because of the,
Generally, we do not do it for, like the town administrator said, for a profit situation. We do it for town committees, you know, the school will put it up for the run, our farmers market's up there right now. Shellstock was up because it's a town, funding thing, it's for the shellfish propaganda.
Propaganda.
Yeah. So, then we'd have to open it up to everybody, we have to be fair and equal. So if it's not town connected, we haven't. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, I just get nervous because it opens, you know, Pandora's box type of thing. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they put some of the signs at the corners, which is generally a complaint we get, people putting them up, but if they're gonna put them up, take it down like we used to, I don't think it would be a problem.
I was gonna ask you how you feel about those signs, because I
We'll be very
noticed
conscious
recently
of
there
that.
was a clearing of some of them,
Yeah.
and of course, we just ordered ours.
The highway department has directive to take it down if it's on our land, and it's not approved. So, I mean, I personally wouldn't mind that, as long as you take them down right after.
Sure.
I mean, in the spirit of it, I just think if we put a banner across, I think too many other things could do with it, could be a problem.
Okay.
In my opinion, I don't think the rest of the board.
Well, my view is, I could see the banner issue, but having some signs, even on town property with town permission, it's really,
The Harvest Festival used to have them all along 88, and they had them on the corners and stuff. Recreation does it, so.
yeah,
I'm not a
that's,
fan of those signs personally, but it's a necessity and we'll be very vigilant to
oh, yeah,
keep them standing, remove them when it's time and.
yeah.
We actually
We'll
fix other people's signs.
Yeah,
Straighten the other ones up.
if I could, Mr. Chair, as I know, we talked on the phone, I was very concerned that we weren't lining this up in time, but you get it together now. We have neighbors, that people throw trash and all, I realize this isn't a how do you do event, you've got mellower people there.
Yeah.
People throw their trash, people will leave themselves in people's driveways, and, you know, just like the people that just left, you know, they have a right to have a nice peaceful evening, so. That's our concern, and matter of fact, you must know from the fair, they got security plus police plus fire, it gets expensive.
We will have 24-hour security.
So,
to
yeah, I
protect
mean,
the tractors, that
if you
people
go-
are gonna be gracious enough
Yeah.
to.
So
show.
there is some planning into it, and I share the town administrator's, you know, concern that we just do it right, that's all. We owe it to the neighbors,
Sure.
you know.
We're absolutely.
Yeah, I know, we spoke, so.
You will, of course. All right, so we'll get all that done, and at the next meeting, September 11th, we'll vote on this, and I'm sure it'll be favorably received.
Great.
So if you get the drift, we're kind of behind you, you just gotta work it out with the police, make sure you get the coverage.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds great. Do you have any requests or anything for the police that we need to ask them, or
But
just?
they figure it out,
Okay.
if I could through the chair.
If-
They figure out, you know, if you're gonna have the two exits like the fair, you need one on each side. They have one roaming, but sometimes they let security do it or volunteers. So
Okay.
you really gotta work it out with them.
Okay. All
Will
right,
do.
fair enough.
All right, and if I could, can you just make sure along Drift Road when it's done, somebody grabs the trash and stuff? What I'm saying is near the fairgrounds, people are gonna throw trash.
Oh,
Pine-
absolutely.
Pine Hill
Yeah.
Road?
I think the fair does it, or the Boy
He's
Scouts
talking
do it.
Pine Hill Road?
Yes,
Yeah,
we're
when it's
working,
done.
we're working
What'd I
with
say,
the
Drift?
scouts.
Drift, Pine Hill.
Yeah,
The
we're working with
Boy
the
Scouts will be
scouts.
there and our crew will fan out
I
and police
appreciate
the
it.
entire ground.
We'll try and leave
and
it
the
better
road.
than it was.
Yeah,
You will.
sounds good, I hope it works out for you.
All right, thank
I
you.
think this is exciting.
I hope it works out for all of us.
Thank you for
My
making this effort.
pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
See you on September 11th.
Yes,
Thank you.
can't wait. Okay, that's, I think, exciting news for Westport. Okay, the next item, 2C, is the request from AGS HVAC Services for approval of the second annual motorcycle run to benefit the Westport Food Pantry. Jim,
I believe
if you have people
Mike and
present here.
Rachel are here
that-
present, they can
come up
explain it.
and-
Just to be consistent, we do not have a report on this one yet. We had a couple of officers on vacation last week, so things got delayed a little bit.
Okay, well, feel free to tell us about it.
We did it last year.
Yep.
So it's our second. We had about maybe 40 bikes.
Yep.
No issues, no problems. The police department worked with us quite well. We had blockers set up, the police set up where we needed to in major intersections. So we'd like to do the same thing. Last year we left the ride out of Rainham and came into Westport. This year we'd like to lead the ride from Westport and end in Westport. We do have a copy of the route, which we would be more than willing to work with the police department. AGS will take care of the police department as far as the cost of them setting up their roadblocks where we need them. Really, the two major concerns would be Route 88, because we cross over, 177, we come down Sodom Road to 177, we're into Little Compton. In Little Compton, into Tiverton, back into Westport, and then back to the Holy Ghost Club. So this is a copy of this route.
I would like to tell you that 177 in Sodom, in the last 6 months, we've had 2 very serious motorcycle crashes.
Absolutely.
With serious injury.
Yep.
So just so you know, and it wasn't the biker's fault. So it does get a little crazy, especially near Sodom Road, because there's a lot of frontage. Not that this is the store's fault, but there's a lot of frontage at that store, and cars don't see pulling out. I'll let you work it out with the police department. This is one of the, I'm sorry, to ramble, but this is one of the things I contacted the town administrator just to make sure we had it looked at. Because I don't like approving things subject to police, but unfortunately this week we've got a few that have to be subject.
So, we raised quite a bit of money for the food bank last year. Actually, this is our 3rd year. It would be the 2nd year for the motorcycle run, so.
Well, I think last year went off without a hitch, if I recall, yeah, so the track record is good.
I'll move it subject to the police report, if there's nothing from the public, subject to the police report, details.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded.
Jim, was there an issue with the insurance last year, or did they cover it? There was
So
insurance.
offhand, I don't know, but I can check.
Okay, I'll just make that part of my motion to make sure that we have the correct insurance binder on the right. Okay?
Okay, motion made and
I
seconded.
seconded it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None, and there's one absent.
One other thing,
Sure.
banner.
Banner wars.
Non-profit, everything goes to the food bank. We'd like to hang a banner on Main Road. Not a big issue.
I think you have a
Just-
copy in your pile, Dad, behind there, or?
Yeah. Is it
Yeah,
the highway
I mean-
department charging?
We do, there's 2
There's a
different
fee for that, but-
fees, 50 or $250.
Yeah, it's not cheap to do that, so if you want to consider it.
Did we do that last year?
No, we did
this
not.
would be something new. so-
Dana
really
Stewart
love
tried
the-
to help us,
Yeah.
but we were too.
banners this year.
Yeah.
Is there a problem because it has a kind of an advertisement for the company on it, Jim?
Well,
I don't know, what do you
We
think?
could make
if it's
that-
an advertisement, it's more of a sponsor, we're sponsoring.
Well, you spend enough money, I agree, it's just we have to be fair
Correct.
to everybody.
Correct.
What do we have on the banners now? We have 2 up there already?
Right now, you've got shell stock, which I'm sure will be coming down, and the farmer's market still goes for a few more weeks, well, actually another month or 2.
And we could make the food pantry actually more visible on the banner too. We have had a college student create it, so.
That'd be nice. But yeah, but it's going to the food pantry, so that's,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Because of the-
I thought you were
Should
sorry.
What do you think, Jim, just because of the prominent company thing? Usually it's in smaller, like along the bottom.
Yeah, you'd be able to adjust that, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
yeah, a
Yep.
little bit. Basically, we spend so much time on banners around here.
Yeah, I know, it's getting crazy.
It's a good way to promote
Yeah.
that stuff around the town, absolutely.
Due to this one being a direct investment into the community with the pantry, I'll move it subject to the advertisement, if you will, being smaller and food pantry being prominent.
That's not,
The banner.
it's not on the agenda though.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, we'll have to hit that next meeting.
do that for September 11th.
7th.
It has to be on the
Okay,
agenda.
no
Okay.
worries.
My bad.
Okay.
Do we need to reach out to the police department, or is,
Yeah, you
No,
gotta do
yeah.
the legwork and get it back to,
Yeah, no,
Sprung.
I'll actually get in touch with Lieutenant Kudo.
Yeah, he's
Yep.
just coming back from vacation, that's why I
Yeah.
don't have the recommendation.
Yeah, I
As soon as
stopped
get it,
in
I
to
will
see him
email-
last, yep,
I'll email you guys his recommendation, and then you work with him.
yep, absolutely.
Perfect.
I will be in touch with him, and I think we did a great job last year. You know, they really worked well with us. Dartmouth did a good job as well, too, so we had a safe ride. It was a beautiful ride. This is gonna be even a better ride, because we're on the coastline, so.
I hope so. The drivers are so scary right now. So good luck. Go slow.
Absolutely, appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck on your event. Okay, the next item, 2D, the last of the licenses and permits and requests from the South Coast Community Foundation of 128 Union Street, Suite 403, New Bedford, for a one-day all-alcohol beverage license for the annual fundraiser Summer's Last Blast on September 8th, 2023, from 5 to 9 p.m. at Weatherlow Farms, 845 Sodom Road. Jim?
And so this is for September 8th, so this will be before our next meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
She's here, Jeff.
Oh, she's here. Ah, I'll
Oh,
have to-
so we have a representative? Good.
My apologies for being a little late to the meeting too.
You weren't late for your part.
You're
right on
time. These are the invitations. You.
Oh,
You
thank
all
you.
get one if
Awesome.
you decide that you want to come.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Tricia Graham, and I'm the Director of Philanthropy at the South Coast Community Foundation. This is our 19th annual fundraiser for the Community Foundation. Proceeds support our work that we do to meet our mission every day throughout the year. The Community Foundation, I don't know if anyone knows what it is, but we service 41 cities and towns throughout the South Coast. What we do is we manage funds from donors that want to support nonprofit organizations in all of those cities and towns through education, scholarships, food pantries. Our assets are about $5 million, and we have over 200 funds at the Community Foundation. So the event helps us. It's one annual event that we have, and typically we've had it either in Dartmouth. Last year it was in Nonquit. Well, the past few years it was, and before that it was COVID, so we had to do a virtual event. But it draws about through sponsorships and tickets. They're all pre-sold. There's nothing sold on site that night. It's just a celebration of all of our nonprofit leaders and our sponsors that do support a lot of what we do. So it's probably going to be about 300 to 350 people. Ryan Wagner has a fund with the Community Foundation, so I reached out to him to see if we could use his property, and we couldn't do it at Nonquit this year. There was a wedding on the family property that we normally is offered to us down there. So we have a tent. We're using part of his property, the building, the big barn that he has. We have a tent, registration tent. We have valet parking. I'd like to see 2 police police that night, just to help with the parking as well as because of the liquor as well. So we do have a band that will shut down at 9 o'clock. It starts at 5 o'clock, and we've got it all laid out so that the valet will take care of all the parking on his property, and if any overflow will be across the street, and we'll have the police officer right there to help with that as well.
Jim, comments? Any background for us?
I don't have any, no.
Question, usually Mr. Wagner is if he's not here this evening. Doesn't it have to be farm related, because it's not a venue? Doesn't it have to, do you have anything farm related with it? Usually he does something with
Oh, we
flowers or
have all the
something.
flowers will be we're purchasing them from Ryan's farm,
Okay.
and also the protein.
How about through the chair, how about the cap on the amount of people on the property. Do you remember that? I know
That
the
I
Board of
don't.
Health had said something.
I haven't had too many come on since I've been here. I'm
Okay.
not that familiar with the capital.
We just
Is there
might
a-
want to double check on that. There was, because they didn't have enough facilities there.
Oh, we're bringing in.
Porta potties?
Yes, yes, it's a six, two sides.
Okay.
It's from a place right out here in Westport. And I think it's closer than it was going down to Nonquit last year. We use, I can't remember the name of it.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, but it's there.
but
It's
yeah,
a big
the
one. It's
facilities-
like something that you'd have for a wedding, yeah.
All right. I would move with some police and the Board of Health writing off on the event, because I thought there was a problem with the numbers, but perhaps she's taking care of it.
Yep, La France Hospitality is doing all the catering
Okay.
and the liquor.
So he's on-
So he's doing all of that. ABC Tent Rental is doing the tents.
Yeah.
Again, we have the flowers from Weatherlo and the protein.
Yeah, generally we get a write-up of what's going from the farm, because it's technically not a venue, it's.
Right.
It's
Well, I told him it
product.
was important that he have the animals out too.
Okay.
That was important, yeah.
It is.
When I saw the cows and everything, I said, that's a stipulation. They need to be out so we can see them. So he said, I can manage that.
Give me a second.
Yeah, we need a second. I'll second that. Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further comments?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, and there's one abstention. Thank you,
Thank you
good luck.
very much.
I'm
Thank
sure it'll be
you.
successful.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. I appreciate your time.
Have a good evening. Stay cool.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, on the list of items are the appointments and resignations. 3A is a request from Joseph Ryu to be appointed to the Infrastructure Oversight Committee. I know there was some earlier chit-chat on this.
Chit-chat.
Jim?
What do you think? Ms. Brown looked it up, and she said that the original committee was 2 planning board members. I know Mandy's got a lot going on, and he originally wanted to be an alternate. I don't mind if we restructure, because I know that Joe Rio's all excited. I know Mandy knows him, and he's familiar with Fall River, so. Do we want to modify it when Mandy's an alternate, especially if we're not sure on Joe Emerald, and give Mr. Rio the spot? There is a notation about Jerry Catino. That's probably my fault. I just thought we had the whole crew go over. Jerry still wants to go. He was planning on going to the meeting on the 6th. I'm not sure about Mr. Emerald.
And Jerry's been doing a great job on that.
Yeah, Jerry helped with the original Route 6 getting it done, so. Is that what you wanted to do, go to alternate too? So I would, that might be a little bit of restructuring from our original committees. So I would move that we have the one planning board as full-time, Bob Dale, and we make Manny alternate, and put Mr. Rio in the other planning board seat right now. That's my motion.
I'll second it, but I don't fully comprehend what's involved there. So,
On the original,
Paula, or
on the original formation, we put, I think I made it, we put 2 planning board members, because
Okay.
we wanted, because they were so involved with Route 6. Manny and Bob Dale were on it.
Yeah.
And as you know, he's on the 2 committees and stuff now, so, it's a lot to do with 2 planning board right now, things are full tilt. So if we make him an alternate, so planning board's still covered, Manny can still vote if needed, and we put Mr. Rio as full-time. I think Manny's familiar with Mr. Rio, and he's confident, and, they can talk and all that stuff.
so does this all work?
Yeah,
The numbers and everything?
unless you just want to add another.
We're
appointment.
adding an alternate.
If you just want to
We're-
add a full
I'm not-
appointment.
Yeah, I'm adding an alternate instead of increasing the committee, that's all. Especially since we don't know. Mr. Emerald had to leave last time for an emergency. We did have a quorum, but, he's got the bus company now with a lot more towns, so. It's Joe Emerald from Emerald Bus, if you're not familiar.
Yeah, no, I know.
So Manny would be the full-time alternate. If anybody's not there, he could fill it.
Yeah, he'd be able to vote.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we've got everything covered, because I really want to have a forum in the fall, so I want to keep the wheels turning.
Well, if it works for all of you, then I'm okay with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see why it wouldn't be.
I apologize if Bob Dale watches. I like to run this by him, because it was his baby getting Route 6 rolling, but we need to keep the wheels spinning, so.
In a good way.
Yes.
He's
He's the vice chair, so.
Okay, so you made the motion, right?
Yeah.
And I seconded it. So further discussion here. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Just Shauna. So 4 in favor, 1 abstention, none opposed. Okay. Good, that passes, and I think that'll work, and that's a good. Now, you invited us to that meeting on September 6th, way back when. I made a note of it, and I put it in my calendar.
I'll talk to him more, see what we got, if he still had it on the agenda or not.
Was there a reason for having us there?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it was just to bring you up to date, and the only reason I ask, you might want to check that if there are going to be more than 3 of us, right, we should probably.
Yeah, I think we were getting, it was something with the Board of Health too, if I remember correctly. I'll tell you, the second time you get COVID, it knocks your cabeza loose a little bit, man, a little bit foggy. But anyways, yes, I'll talk to Maury.
Yeah, okay.
If it's not pertinent, we don't need to do it.
Okay, understood, just.
So can we just go over the construction of that committee then?
Mhm.
So it's gonna be 1 planning board rep and 1 planning board rep alternate?
We could leave it as a planning board alternate. I was gonna make it just a general alternate. We'd leave 1 planning board.
Take the planning board away?
Yeah, take 1 planning board off.
That's it. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, that works. Okay, we already voted, so we're off and running.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So where's Joe Riet gonna come in?
If we're removing 1 planning board, it's gonna be at large. Or citizen, whatever you wanna, you usually call that large.
At large,
Yeah, we have his neighborhood rep, Jerry
No,
Martino, so there'll be 2.
Well, he's on the water, right, Joe?
2 neighborhood
Well,
reps.
he's in that,
So he's part of the neighborhood.
2 neighborhood reps, I think we can do.
Yeah, put it as 2 neighborhood reps.
Okay, that completes that item. Good. Sounds good to me. It's an important committee. So 3B is a request from Mid-City Steel to appoint Julio Coronado, Amanda Creador, and Sean Carrera as public wares.
So moved. That's not usually an issue.
Jim, anything?
No, it's pretty standard. They work at the facility.
We just did some waivers recently for this.
We have.
Yeah, okay. We need a second, though.
Shy wood tonight.
Hope it doesn't fail for our inbox of seconds. Okay.
Shauna, we need.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. And then 1 abstention. Okay, C is request from Robert Marshall. Interesting that this is on here because this employee has left. The request from Robert Marshall, a maintenance employee, to accept his resignation effective August 2nd, which is passed. But more importantly than to authorize the posting of the position. What is the pleasure of the committee?
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Jim, any background here we need, or is this pretty much?
Need to fill it.
We did post, I need to fill it as soon as we can.
Then we will get on with it right away. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None?
Well, the snow flies.
And there's 1 abstention. Okay. So the next item is D, request from Brian Knapp to be appointed to the Energy Committee. Are you, Mr. Knapp? Oh,
Wow, holy cow.
All night.
How's it going? Get extra points.
I know a Ronald Knapp in Westport. Any relation?
You know, I've actually been asked that twice. No relation as far as I know.
He comes from
But,
Connecticut.
Mr. Chair, rest of the board, good evening. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, I'm happy you're coming forward for this committee. I used to be on the committee, and I know the committee has been bereft of committee members. For some time.
I saw quite a bit of vacancies open for quite some time.
And there's good work to be done there. So I welcome your involvement. And a big piece of the Energy Committee is making sure we generate all of the green communities credits and other things, but that's centermost. We're doing a lot with that. I think we can prove something like that recently, didn't we, Jim, for probably the ARPA group?
I think so.
In the annex, I thought we did. I mean, all of this is related to energy.
Yes.
And we've got an energy
Oh, yes, we did.
audit going on right here with the consultant.
Right.
So there's lots to do. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm an electrical engineering student at UMass Dartmouth. I recently transitioned out of the military, so I did 6 years service of that. And one of my biggest things, I think, as a voting citizen is just to have a civic responsibility to contribute to my community. So with that, I think it was just natural to fall into this particular role, especially with the vacancies and then my background as well. So I did electronic warfare in the military, and then I naturally changed this into electrical engineering within the school. The biggest thing with this was the CEA, or the Community Electric Aggregate Program. The biggest thing for me as a new Westport resident was the price of electricity here. So I went through the town's initiatives. It seems quite old posted from what I have now, and as far as the agenda I've seen the most recent from about 2022. So as far as the community or the energy committee's involvement, specifically with the town's doings in that, I can't speak to that particularly, but I'm hoping to get involved with that and work with Walter in order to continue to contribute to that and support our town's energy sustainability while reducing and mitigating costs where we can.
Good to have you aboard, and I was on that committee and enjoyed it. So what is the pleasure of the committee?
I'll move for he changes his mind.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. One abstention. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right.
You do
well,
need to
thank
be
you so
sworn
much.
in.
Okay.
Paula will get you a form.
All right.
You take it down to the clerk, and any given day, just go in, and it takes all of
Okay.
6 seconds.
Absolutely. Did I just send you an email then?
I'll email you, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for coming forward.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard.
Appreciate it.
There's a lot of other committees to be on.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. That makes my day. Okay, a request from Mark Schmid, who was here earlier, I think, to accept his resignation from the Long-Term Building Committee. I know there's some talk about this and some background that we should know about. Because he was temporarily the chair for a day or
Yes,
something,
he's
right?
appointed chair. I think he just realized he's on a number of committees here in
Yeah.
town. He's on another, he just signed up for another committee outside of town. It's supposed to be taking a significant amount of his time. He just didn't feel he could put the time into this committee that it deserves.
Yeah, he's on the planning board, right? Yeah, so that's a lot of work.
All right, I'll move it. Thank you. Send a letter of thanks for his service.
Yeah, definitely. And I second that. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None?
That's another one we could use somebody with experience, because we need
Yeah.
to keep the wheels turning on that one too.
Yeah, good man. Okay. So now, who would be there is no chair now for the committee? Everybody have to get together.
I was the vice chair, so the next meeting, we're going to determine that, I guess.
Okay. I hope you get the job. All right. Good. Well, thank you for your efforts in that meeting. Okay, the next group of items are the action items. Request from Max Performance to hold the 17th Annual Buzzards Bay Triathlon on Sunday, September 17th, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is a yearly event, according to Jim. I don't think there's obviously nobody here from that group, but I don't know if that's critical. So Jim, tell us more about this, and do we need to do anything and think about something here?
So this is the yearly event. They hold the triathlon starting at Horseneck Beach. They swim at the beach, then they bike up 88 Drift Road, Hicks Bridge, down Horseneck Road, back to the beach. And then they have a run that starts at the beach parking lot and kind of loops around John Reed Road, East Beach, and then the beach road through the campground. It's been going on for a number of years. There is a police report on file that recommends a number of details at specific locations. I'd recommend approval, subject to the police recommendations.
I'll move it, and if we can just send a follow-up letter to this one, because it does get competitive, of our concern of keeping, staying within guidelines of so many abreast and whatnot. It was concerned with them swamping the road in the past. So if you could just think of something to that effect, please, extra safety or whatever. What happens is, because this one's competitive, they can tend to go 5 or 6 abreast in some areas. Just, it's a concern that they just keep that under control, that's all. That's my request.
Okay, so do we have a second to that? You made a motion.
I think I had made the motion, yeah. with
I'll
that
second
caveat.
I'll second it.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, and there's one abstention. Thank you. Okay, 4B is request from Chris Gonzalez, Highway Surveyor, to approve change order for Rochester Bituminous Products Incorporated. Jim?
Yes, so this was their Chapter 90 program and their RAP program for last year. And they extended some of the work, or they're going to extend some of the work. They had some good pricing with the asphalt last year, so it's advantageous to the town to extend that work. So I'd recommend approving the change order for the
So moved.
contract.
Any seconds here?
Second.
There you
And
go.
Boxler.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none, and there's one abstention. C is a request from the Fire Chief Search Committee to post the position in-house with a deadline of September 8th, 2023. Jim, in this, when you say in a deadline of 2020, September 20, that means that's how long it will stay up? 'Cause it's not a month or anything, it's a couple of weeks now.
That's all the
2-3
posting
weeks.
would be it.
Is that,
This would be the in-house posting.
okay.
Then the committee would review the applicants and either recommend to the Board of Selectmen or recommend that it
Go out.
go out
External.
to external posting.
I see, okay. All right,
I'll move it, I'm on that committee.
I'll second.
motion made and seconded. Any discussion that's further? Then is all please, their favor by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None, and one abstention, as you know.
Just so the board knows, Brian was the EMA, correct, or EMS?
Yes.
EMS director, we put that into the job description. Brian was it before, but it wasn't in the job description, so we modified it, so the person will have to do that too for the town, just so you guys know.
Okay. All right, so we took action on that. Then 4D is the request to use, this is really a request on the part of the committee that works on this through the select board then to approve any American Rescue Plan Act. We're going to be talking about that in a moment, but this is a particular item that we met on and agreed to. So it's a request to use American Rescue Plan Act funds, also called ARPA, to replace 2 cooling units at the Town Hall Annex, $43,309. Jim?
Yeah, so there's 2 units at the Town Hall Annex. There's the hearing room unit that has failed, as well as that one's completely gone. We tried repairing it, doing some Band-Aid approaches, and it did not work. It does need to be replaced. There's also a unit up in the building inspector conservation office that the air that's coming out of there is just damp. The registers are all rusted up. They've looked at those units. These are all 20-plus years old in the building. By doing the AC and the heat together, we do get incentive grants from the utility company, so I think we're getting about $12,000 per unit incentive grant to put these in, which kind of offsets the heating component of it. So this way we get both heating and cooling as supplemental heating, and we get the full cooling for about the same price as we would get cooling alone. If we just go cooling alone, we do not get the incentive, so.
So county is where we seek it.
I'm going to try the county first,
Yeah.
yes.
I think that's wise.
I'll move it, and just so the public knows too, it's not just comfort now with AC. A lot of people are realizing after this wet summer, helps stop mold growth and whatnot,
Oh, yeah,
air
yeah.
quality. So I'll move it.
Second?
I'd like to have a little bit of discussion on it. I'm not gonna vote in favor of it, mostly just because I think that building's, we shouldn't throw any more money at it. We got other issues, so I guess the roof's leaking right now.
The roof's leaking over there?
Yeah, they had a big, I guess, where, next to the nurses, they had a flood
Right.
inside there.
Oh, that was actually one of the AC units.
Okay.
The condensation built up and the drain plug got clogged.
Plugged up, yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, we're throwing a lot of money into this building and it's outdone its useful life. I mean, we don't have an elevator in there. We're trying to at least table it for now, just because we're trying to look at, you know, on the school building committee, we've had some things come forward, and it's quite possibly that we could just move in to the old high school with those offices. And not even use the study, the $200,000 that was appropriated at town meeting. So, I mean, we're looking at a $250,000 saving just there. From what I found out in the high school is we have to do, I think it's called a Chapter 34 report from the building department. And it doesn't have to be the entire building. It's the area that you're looking to move into. So we could probably take the whole annex and, you know, after building inspector reviews it, move them right in there a week later. One of the other things that I'm coming up with the high school is, you know, some people were saying the renovations were going to be $26 million. I mean, the building's structurally sound. We got a new roof on it. talking to these building inspector experts on the code, the project at hand is what has to be reviewed. And one of the other things about the building being as large, so one of the things that triggers it is how large of a project for renovation on code upgrades. But like, we were gonna demo parts of that building, and I mean, those, the auditorium, the gymnasium, I mean, that's stuff that the town's still using now. So I just think throwing this money at this building until we can have a little bit more time on that. I mean, the heat's working now though, right? I mean, the heat's not working at all either.
The heat or
That
the
I
air
got-
conditioning?
The air conditioning's out in the hearing room. The heat we had trouble with last year. They had to keep replacing, I want to say the relay switch, but I could be wrong. They also had an issue with the pressure tank, something to do with the pressure tank on the boiler. That was fixed.
Are there dehumidifiers in that building?
There's a couple of other AC units that on the other side of the building, but in these two areas, there would not be. You can't use the hearing room, I mean.
That's why we.
Even if, I would only say if we moved into the high school, just to even wire it for computers and setting up desks and getting counters in there, it's gonna take some time. I know you don't wanna throw money into this place, but best case scenario, I think we're gonna be over there for, whether it's months or a year. I think we'll get, I would strongly recommend just,
If you're talking about you had water damage over there, so it's really important right now when you've had water damage in a building to make sure that you're keeping it from getting mold. So is there something we can do with, can these, have no idea what goes on with building, can you take these heat cooling units and move them over to the high school if we needed to?
Probably wouldn't be worth it for the money. Wouldn't be worth moving over.
The building becomes useless if it's inundated with mold. We couldn't even sell it if it becomes inundated with mold, which is what happened at the high school. So that would be more my concern, is what do we have for dehumidifiers over there to get rid of the water that was leaking from before?
Well, I see the dilemma here. It's just an important point. I think we'll probably be having these same discussions as we go along here at the high school. My problem immediately, though, is I don't know how long it's going to take for all of this. We have kids over there.
Caught 'em up, yeah.
We have employees. We have the Department of Health there. I mean, I feel it's almost like a gun to my head, but I feel we got to do this. We talked about that with our mini meeting there. Yeah, we don't want to keep doing this if we're going to have a change here that involves the old high school, but we still have to get by now, and the now problem is immediate. So I'd vote in favor of it, but I do so with some reluctance for Manny's thoughts. That's my thinking on this.
It's also a funding request, where the funding was coming from. So we've kind of, I've authorized the work, we're going to pay it out of the old electrical incentive account if we didn't get the ARPA funds. I mean, to me, it was an emergency, it had to be done.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I can agree with that, those sentiments too. I just want to try to, like, if we didn't have the tax override, we're going to be looking for money. 40,000, a little bit of change.
Well, but this is
The ARPA
ARPA money, which is capital, so
Yeah,
it's
but
not
it
going to
could
help the
also be
budget.
used for, we're looking at the Macumber has an issue over there. So, we got water main that we could be getting done down Osborne Street to solve that issue. So I'm just trying to think what's a little bit more important.
Yeah, no,
A building with mold with kids in it is definitely more important.
I understand that, but we got kids in the high school right now. I mean.
Do we have a mold
offices-
issue at the high school right now?
We have offices in the high school right now. We have space in the high school
Sorry, you
right
have
now.
something to say?
We could move,
Valerie Bain, I just wanted to ask what the price was again. You said 12,000 for each, or?
No, 43,000 for both of them. We're getting a $12,000 incentive from utility for each
Oh, and
unit.
then you pay the rest of it. Oh, okay.
Glad we have public comment.
Yeah, thanks, Val.
Well, all right, I see the dilemma, but you know how I feel, or whatever, so What's the pleasure of the committee?
I think it's needed because of the building situation, but, you know, I hope we move along, like Mandy says, and we can move out of that building down the line.
Mm.
For now, we've got to address it, and especially if it's gonna be the heat too.
Making a motion here?
I thought, did we make a motion on this yet?
I'll move it.
Yeah.
Oh, we did?
Oh, you did?
You did, because of air quality.
Yeah, I said because of the mold and air quality.
All right, so any further discussion?
Yeah, we had just other thoughts besides the contract with Cardamom. Val's out of there too, so we gotta find a place to put her with all her
And
equipment.
I was melting at the Board of Health this afternoon.
There you go. So, just so we can function for a bit, I think it's necessary.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. But anyway.
If it wasn't opera, I think we'd have to,
Yeah, that
I'd
would-
have to agree with him more.
That would force the issue. Well, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
And if it's a
None opposed, one
prevent
absent.
mold.
Yeah, we'll have these discussions again and again, as from here on out. Okay, thank you. The next item is why don't we just zip into, since we're in the mood for American Rescue Plan Act, why don't we just put that one first before the e-alerts and have our discussion. There's no vote needed here. Many of you asked to bring this forward. We had talked about this before, but I don't see any problem with discussing it again. So, you want to ask questions, or Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about what we talked about before?
I mean, basically, the use of these funds, and I know that they're used for specific things, and this is something we can use them for, like on the annex. We also took some of these funds for the harbor water study, which, again, that's a private entity, it's not a town entity. I am most in favor of clean water for everybody, but then in the building committee meeting, we had the superintendent come forward and say, we have issues with the well at Macumber. And on the planning board side, we talked about that neighborhood that needs the water main looped in. So I can't understand why the Macumber hasn't taken precedent on some of these funds to loop that water main down Osborne Street and solve some of our problems on Route 6. And that neighborhood is also, according to Jim Whiting, has like a disadvantaged, poverty-stricken neighborhood, and has some money that they can go after for that. We have plans on paving Gifford Road. We need to hold off on a certain section of that. We've just had some of these, many of these denitrification systems being installed in that neighborhood that, both new construction and rehabs, that we're looking at the private citizens are paying in that area for this stuff already. It's getting in the millions on these septics. This neighborhood needs the water main, our school needs the water main. So I just think we need to look at, if we got some of this ARPA money left, I mean, where do we stand with that, Jim? Were they planning on fixing the well, or?
So I think it was, I want to say, and I haven't been involved in it, so I could be wrong, but I thought it was the water tanks themselves.
Yep.
I don't know if it's the well issue, but it would be a nice loop to loop it up from Route 6 down Gifford Road and down Osborne.
I talked about that the whole stretch. I think we talked about it in infrastructure. Can we find out a price for Kleinfelder to design it? That could come out of the ARPA, like Mandy's saying.
I'm kind of, and I like Kleinfelder, but I think we have some local resources that could, that design's complete already on Route 6.
Just about, yeah.
So we could hire, a local engineer, say like Northeast or something like that, that could take that plan and just, we need to look at sewer and water, but at least we can get that designed and we can throw the water loop in.
I don't care who does it.
Yeah,
somebody could come up with a price.
We can come up with a rough estimate for construction costs and
bring it to ARPA, the committee,
and the design. you know, it might be worth just coming up Gifford Road at this point and tying in the school and not looping it around, because you loop it around down to
It's gonna solve
Osborne.
other problems with flushing.
Yeah, flushing it, it's circulating.
You go to, yeah, it just
I
introduces more, because you get down to Osborne and Route 6, now you gotta bring it back along Route 6, so you gotta do the state highway permitting and stuff, so, which isn't the end of the world, but it's
Well,
another permitting.
We're up on the side of Nook, it's already in there, and then you, when you come out the other end onto Route 6, so you only need it on one end. And that's pretty, the gas company does it all the time, I mean, that's an access permit. We did it for coastal healing. I don't think that's gonna hold us up that much. I mean, this is drinking water. A
Yeah,
school,
we can get a
okay,
price on it.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know about the
thinking,
infrastructure.
we might look at Northeast, they have, John Connell, he's came from Site Tech, but he was originally City of Taunton. And that's all he did in Taunton. He's familiar with the town, I think he could turn around something quick for us.
All right, so I would suggest that we do that, we get a price out of the ARPA funds that they could pursue that. We're just gonna come up with a price and then seek the,
So I'll get a price for for design, a rough price for design, and a rough price for
yeah,
construction.
'cause the utilities are there, and they've had free will, so who knows the way they ran it, they're gonna have to go by.
No, and one of the other things, once we get the design, because I've been in contact with Senator Rodericks quite often. He's like, you know, we get a design, especially the school. Now, I think the school might have some kind of grants they could go towards to get some funding that way. We might have different locations we can get the money to put this in. And even if it's a couple of steps, you know, the most important thing would be get that design in. And Mike keeps telling us that he can get us more money, so let's try to allocate this.
Yeah,
stuff for
well,
this type of
he will
stuff.
have to in the end. But yeah,
makes sense.
he said that and he will. Okay, so this is not an action item per se, but we can pursue this
Look
course.
into it. Have Jim
Look into it.
And just for
Engineering.
reference, they've changed the interim rule. They've amended it to allow additional uses of the ARPA money. It can be used for emergency relief and natural disasters, surface transportation projects. So I believe that includes road construction or resurfacing and those kind of things. It can also be used for Title I projects, which is Community Development Block Grant funding, which could be housing, which brings in a whole different group of uses. We're getting somewhat limited because a lot of the uses was related to COVID. It's getting more and more difficult to justify the use for a COVID health reason as we get further and further away from COVID, even though it seems to be coming back now. But so anyway, it gives us more opportunity at different options
Okay.
for funding.
Well, Manny, we have an ad hoc meeting. It's myself, Shauna, Jim, some of the school people, a couple of them, Tom Albin, and but anyway, and then we bring that to the full committee here. We don't have a problem with you joining us. We meet like once a month, usually on it's not the best time of day for you probably, but it's like, we try to do it at 4 o'clock. And that's when we have our little ad hoc meeting, what do you want to call it? And but everything has to come here. We are the ultimate authority. So if you want to be part of that, it's fine with me. We never had any hard rules, so we joined and got all these.
Three though, you'll have to post, if Sean is gonna be there too. If you're gonna have Sean too, they're gonna have to.
Yeah,
post it.
well,
No biggie.
we could do that. Anyway, just think about it. All right, so that, let's conclude that item. So the next one was your first one, the public meeting postings and procedures and e-alerts. You want to talk about that, Jim, or both of you? Or, I know what it's about. I read it, and it sounds pretty good to me.
It's up to you. I can start unless you want to start.
You can start.
So a resident brought this to our attention. The way the website is set up, as we entered boards or committees into the department or boards and committees page, it automatically put that committee into an e-alert page. And so every committee, or most of the committees there, are listed on this e-alert, and if you check off the e-alert, you're supposed to get notified of agendas or meetings or minutes or news events. And so people were checking off these e-alerts, but they weren't getting noticed because, frankly, we didn't know it was linked. So we've been working on it. We still don't have a final solution, but we're getting closer. We have some limitations with the software as to what we can do and how we can set it up. So what we've done is we've taken off the e-alerts that people aren't posting to. So the Board of Selectmen, Board of Health, Conservation,
Planning
Planning
goes out a lot. I
and
get that.
Finance
I get planning
Committee
all the time.
will be listed there for meetings, and if they want to put their minutes, they can do that too. But what we did was, if you check off on the town clerk, and we're still looking to update the page, but we can't do it internally, the company has to do it. So it'll say next to the town clerk, if you check off this box, you will get notification of every meeting. So then when they post with the town clerk, she is going to post the agenda and post it to e-alerts, so anybody who wants all the meetings, again, all the posted meetings in one spot.
What company does, we have to, we have to pay a company to
Sorry,
do all this?
So we have a web page now, and we've just looked to upgrade the web page, and it was like $40,000 to $50,000. So
Yeah, it's not-
we've kind of
it's
put
not
that on
pretty.
hold a little bit. We did that a couple of meetings ago. I think we mentioned that in one of the reports. So that's on hold, but the web page it's outdated a bit, but it's still functional. This was something we just weren't aware of. I didn't know we had the e-alert checkboxes there. It just comes with the web application. So in order for them to change that web application page, it's something they have to do internally. They originally said they can't do it, but we're still trying to work with them to see if they will do it.
If not, I could put you on to other towns to do it. Acushnet does it. There's other small towns that do it.
Yeah, a lot of these, Swansea does it, but they have it set
But
up.
do they
so-
have a different web page designer and manager?
If not, we could find out. It needs to be tweaked anyways, so it's
Yeah.
been a good 10 years.
There's a lot to be done on our web page, our website. You know, Swansea has, they're hiring a communications director. Dartmouth is hiring a just to do this stuff, websites
Yeah.
and Facebook and, you know, the general stuff. We don't have that option here, so.
Yeah.
We're
All
trying
right.
to make it work, but ideally, if you sign up for the town clerk e-alerts, you will get every agenda that's posted, and every meeting should be posted with the town clerk. So
Good,
you
we
will
need
know.
it. All right, that's
And
good.
the agendas will also be there. Before, you used to hit on the calendar,
Yeah.
and it would just tell you the time of the meeting. Now you'll be able to hit on the calendar, and under the calendar, they'll list the agendas, and you click on them, and you open up the actual agendas. So
It took me a while to get the calendar because I pushed for that on it too. So, all right. Chair had to step out for a minute, so I'll keep things moving. Your report, Jim, please.
So that was the first one on the e-alerts. Wage study.
Yeah.
Wage studies are due the 24th, which is what, Thursday of this week? I'm sorry, not the wage study itself, but the request for proposals, so we should have proposals in later this week, and we will start on that process. That was funded at town meeting. Fee schedule and capital improvement request. I'm sending out a memo, and there's a draft in here for capital improvement request, as well as fees, looking at all the departments to review their current fees, compare them with some of the neighboring communities, and recommend changes if there should be changes. Same thing with the capital improvement request. We're looking to start that committee up again in September to start reviewing capital items for the following year. We're also looking to complete the 5-year plan as opposed to just a couple of years looking out. So those have gone out. I also put in here, just to start the conversation, is a free cash policy. And I put it in there just to give the board a first look to see if you can kind of take a look and see if you want me to pursue that. Maybe work with the finance committee, board of selectmen, and the school committee to see if we could come up with a policy as to how we spend our free cash on a regular basis. Do we carry a certain percentage over to the following year? Do we put 40, 50% into capital items? Do we put any into stabilization? There's also an additional fund now, a stabilization account that you can set up for special education type uses. So you put this money into the stabilization account, and it can be released not just by town meeting, but it can be released by the school committee and the board of selectmen if they jointly approve it. So that's something we may want to look at. That's one of the things the school department brings up, that they have special needs or students move into district that they hadn't planned for, that all of a sudden they need to fund.
I don't know, Jim, if we're gonna have that much free cash to play with now, so.
This year, I think we had over $500,000 in free cash just from the health insurance. We had 2 holidays last year, so 2 months we didn't have to pay for our health insurance. So that's over 500, and we had some turnbacks and a few other things. I don't think it'll be up $2 million like last year, but It should be over $1 million.
I think we gotta, me personally, I think we gotta look at the budgets a lot harder now that there's no override, and it might not be as much, but we'll argue that up as time goes, I guess. All right, Mr. Chair, that was the TA report. Did you have more, Jim?
Just the Cannabis Control Commission.
Oh, yeah.
They're changing the they're changing the regulations. The Mass Municipal Association asked if we could submit a letter just requesting that, what they're doing is the new regulations would actually go backwards. And so if you had an existing community host agreement, it would kind of void that agreement out. So any fees that we're supposed to collect through that agreement would be voided. And they think based on just the legal requirements and the existing law that's out there, federal and state, there's going to be a lot of challenges to the new regulations. So, it's going to be costly for everybody, the cannabis community as well as the community. So they're asking that at a minimum they don't backdate this new regulation to impact previously negotiated host agreements.
And they wonder why people don't believe in the government. That's the only reason it was coming in, is because of the funds, and now they're taking it away.
So, yeah. So I did do a draft letter. I will send that up if it's okay with the board.
May I ask, do you have a question?
No.
I was wondering when we would be having discussions with Coastal Healing again. So is this the kind of thing that just has to wait till how this plays out? We don't quite know what direction it's going in.
I think so. The way it's looking like it's going to play out is they're going to kind of void the old agreements, and we would have to challenge it in order to keep it in place. And we're not receiving a whole lot of money or funds from our existing facility, and a lot of the facilities, their sales and revenue has gone down quite a bit. It's not like it was 4 or 5 years ago. So it's something we'd have to look at going forward, whether or not it was worth pursuing. It also may be if there's enough pressure from the communities that the Cannabis Control Commission takes that provision out, so existing agreements are exempt from the new regulations, which would benefit the town of Westport.
Yeah. Or it'd certainly give us more leverage in discussions.
Yes.
Because we know they have a problem, but still, we gotta play by the rules.
We have
Okay.
another one knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Is that been, organization been named? Is there a name for that?
It hasn't come before us yet.
Well, they've been through planning. I don't know if it's approved yet through planning, but I think they met once or twice with us. It's right next door.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not surprised it happened. I am surprised, though, that being the present state of the industry, that's a bold move. These are entrepreneurial people. Good for them. Okay, any further?
That's all I had.
All right, thank you for that. And Mr. Vice Chair, excellent job. You moved very quickly,
Yeah,
we'll just get that up. We've got two things going on here. Keep shuffling papers. All right. We are at number 7, approving of the minutes, and the only one I think here is July 24th, Manny, or?
Were those the ones I did? Okay, so I'm going to move the minutes of July 24th to July 23rd.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
None?
abstain.
Yeah, Manny abstains, so it's 3 in favor, and would be one abstention, and one not here tonight. So it passes 3-1. 3-1, right. Okay.
The warrant, it was fairly easy, back to the regular small one, no big retirement payments or anything like that. Signed
Okay.
it, everything looked good.
Thank you. Selectmen Liaison Committee reports and suggestions for future agenda discussion. I'll pick on Ann first to go.
I had a building committee meeting. Manny is now the vice chair, so I will let him speak on it. But it was fairly uneventful. We're moving forward to check out what our options are without hopefully using the 200,000, as he's already said. That's the only meeting I've had.
Okay. I have, one thing I mentioned earlier, we had the farmers market. I was invited to that by Maury May. and Paul Schmidt and Senator Michael Rodericks, and we talked about that. But anyway, the one thing that's been popping up lately is a letter from David Cole. He has an idea regarding taxation, property taxes, called the Homestead Act, which has to do with a statute in Massachusetts that allows a variable tax rate for properties based on value. There's some midpoint, and maybe you've seen the stuff he's been sending out. David has requested an opportunity to discuss this with us. I'm not so sure about the idea, but that's not the point tonight. David's a good guy. He's done a lot of work for the town. I take his work seriously. I take him seriously. And I think it would be good to have him come in here, maybe the 25th of September, because next time's going to be pretty busy. And he can explain what this idea is. It'd probably be nothing more than a discussion as opposed to an action item. However, this is something we embrace and we could make it into an action item. So I'd be recommending we do that. So that's called a homestead, and I think you all got copies of that to read.
I think it's a while back, yeah.
I guess that's it from my end. I go to the Council on Aging as the liaison of the Board of Selectmen, and that's going along nicely. So those are the only items I have. We've talked about a number of other things for the next meeting and the meeting after that, so that would be my report. Steve?
Nothing overly exciting. They're still trying to get the bike path through and whatnot. We've still got, that's another one that's got to be figured out, how they can get us up Route 6 in combination with everything else when we rip it open. Serpent, nothing overly excited this month. I believe that's all I had since the last meeting. A lot of them taking breaks for August so we can get acclimated.
Okay, thank you. Manny?
Like Ann said, it wasn't too eventful. We did invite Ralph to the August 30th meeting, the building inspector, to do it. I've spoken with one of the building inspectors in Fall River, Glenn Hathaway, and there's also another one that lives in Westport that obviously they're all friends with building inspectors, kind of close network. And Glenn's the one that told me about the Chapter 34 review, which our building inspector, I mean, we could hire a consultant to do that, but we only have to do it, say we wanted to move the annex into because the building's still occupied, offices and school right now. We wanted to move offices in, we just have to look at the area that we're in. And if it's minor modifications, we don't have to do anything for code upgrades. And one of the good things about that building that I feel is the size of it. I mean, some of the studies were talking about demolition of the auditorium and the gymnasium, and that would trigger major code changes if you started demoing that type of stuff. But say we wanted to move Council on Aging in, so we moved the annex in, and we wanted to move Council on Aging in. You could the size of the building, kind of for a long-term plan, and turn it into a whole municipal facility, works quite well. And with the cost of $800 a square foot for new construction and a structurally sound building, I think we're pretty smart to keep the building if we decide to go in that direction.
Well, that'll be worked through the long-range building committee. Yeah, and we want to have a discussion on that as often as possible until you come to hard, specific recommendations. I don't know what form that takes. Now, the town meeting authorized $200,000 to hire a consultant. Did you say earlier that would not be necessary?
We could move into that building without spending that money. We could hire a code expert, but those were actually the people that I spoke with, a couple of those also, and they're the ones that told me how simple it is, and it can be, and it seems like it's a trend in Massachusetts now because of the new building cost to renovate these buildings. Obviously, something like you take a building like this, it's a lot older than what the high school is. It's kind of like what happened to us with the middle school. With different things that we could have done with the middle school that might have not. I just, from what I'm hearing in the community, they want to save, they're still using all the fields. The kids are going to Tiverton for basketball. We got a gymnasium there, we got the auditorium there, the assembly. It's actually larger than the one in the high school. We probably have future needs for the school. It could be a regular community center. They could have adult education there. We could have a senior center there. We could move everybody there.
Now, one thing maybe the committee could spend some time on, and I think this was part of the consultant, was what do we do with the old buildings and how do we dispose of them and so on and so forth. And this building is historic, for example.
I think the sentiment of that is this building's, most people want us to keep this building, historically. But the annex, I think we should let somebody else invest money in that building. Council on Aging, it's just not large enough. I think if we sold that, we probably could get more money for the Council on Aging than we did for the high school.
Well, I don't question any of this, but here's what I'm looking for, or what I think I'm looking for. Sometimes it's not what I think, it's what I think I'm looking for. A comprehensive plan, because this has moving parts to it, and including all of the things I've talked about. And of course, in the end, and in the past, we've had numbers floating around that made people nervous, like 29 million a year, or more than that to renovate. So I guess a lot of these parts have got to be sifted out by your committee to say, here's the facts, here's the myth.
I believe that is what this committee will do.
Yeah.
I think they finally got their feet to the fire and they're going to do it. I do believe that.
We need the committee to do that, and whatever help
Even at the 26 million, I think was a full renovation of the building. And then what do we got, 155,000 square foot building? So now the new cost of a building at that point, $800 a square foot.
Oh, yeah.
The consultant talked, so he said that's fact right now. That's what it's costing. He says you go right now in the Vineyard, it's 1,000. The building's structural. That's not a question. And it's safe. It's not that it's not safe.
Yeah. Well, anyway, these points will all be made known through your committee and sifted out and vetted. But right now, I don't have my arms around it because there's been so much information that's probably out of date now. Just the costs themselves have changed the economics of this. So there's a lot of sentiment for keeping the building and using it, and if we can pull that off. So
the Chapter 94 report, we have a lot of information already. So I think we certainly could move forward and have that done professionally by somebody, one of these consultants. And that could be like a project manager to say, okay, this is what the town's needs are for the buildings. And he could also look at the other buildings and what do we do with this?
Yeah.
What do we do with the annex?
how often do you meet?
We have a meeting August 30th now. So, again, what I'm saying is throwing the money at the annex right now. That's why I think we need to try to stop kicking the can down the road and decide if we are keeping it. I personally would like to keep it, but what I'm hearing with all the people in that end of town, nobody wants to get rid of it. The kids, the people that are using the fields. Then the other thing is, what do we do with the school administration? If we're doing an addition, it's going to be 800 a square foot.
Yeah.
If we do an addition on this, it's going to be $800 a square foot. So, whatever renovations, we just found out that we don't have to spend $26 million to move into that building.
Well, I'm happy with that.
And I think the size of the building also helps us in the future on what we want to move into it. What we want to do with renovation. We could occupy it and still renovate space.
But how often does your committee meet?
Well,
3 weeks so far. We've only been our second meeting.
Yeah.
Well, how often?
Probably once a month. I would guess once a month.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
No, we tried to do it in 2 weeks and we couldn't because of a plan. So I do see that this committee we do realize that we've got to do something, and it's everybody wants it done. Everybody on that committee. I don't say that we know exactly where we're going, but everybody wants this over, believe me. I don't think anybody wants to continue
Certainly
doing
could do
this.
the 3D imaging in every room in that
I
place
think
too.
I think they might have been moving forward with that. I don't.
I asked them to do it
handling
one
that.
that. Yeah, nobody wanted to do it, but I hope they do it.
All right.
We can do everything on the
Some kind of, but the other thing, like, so Jimmy, what are we paying, what was the heating bill on that building? How about the annex? I mean, that building, you know, I mean, we're gonna.
I don't know, I can check on that.
Gotta be, it can't be
It's
that
not cheap.
energy efficient.
Well, it
Well,
makes
we're
sense.
spending, what,
All right.
$200,000 a year for
Spending over,
upkeep?
yeah, spending like $200,000 to $300,000 for upkeep at the high school.
Okay, that's enough for tonight. We get it.
We should.
The train is moving. I'm liking the sound of that, and but we're looking forward to future reports. Many reports. Okay.
No comments and statements, we're done with that. Oh, no, you didn't finish, I'm sorry.
No, you're done, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm talking about the 3D thing.
All right, yeah, comments and statements from the public. Valerie, the only public here.
She already made a statement.
She made a statement.
All right, so that item is concluded. The Board of Committees vacancy list, we talked about that. We had a gentleman come forward tonight for the Energy Committee. That was great. Jim, do we have a topic or two not reasonably anticipated?
About Jerry Catino, so we could go to the next meeting. I don't think that's controversial.
I don't know if we'd be voting on anything anyway, but that's up to you guys.
Jerry Catino, I don't think we had him on the initial list to go back on infrastructure committee, and we got a meeting for our next meeting.
But we
He
discussed
wants
this
to be
earlier.
on it.
Yeah, he wants to be.
Oh.
We just,
So-
it's probably my fault as chair that I didn't get everything together. What are we gonna do? So,
So can I move?
is that, do you think it's fair, it's okay for us to move Jerry to get appointed as?
After 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, because we're stuck before the next meeting. So I don't think it's
I'll move Jerry
controversial.
Tino being appointed.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, and I'd like to understand this. I don't understand this, because we just had the discussion, and I thought we filled the bill, so we don't have a vacancy for Jerry.
Jerry
We didn't
Catino
appoint
didn't
him.
have an appointment sheet. That's why we thought he was gone. That's originally why we thought he was gonna go on Jerry's slot. Jerry Catino wants to stay on infrastructure. He
We just
didn't get
missed
it.
him in the list. When we read all those names, we missed him.
Jerry wasn't on it.
Oh,
He
okay.
didn't put in, he never.
Yeah, he never put, never did.
Never replied saying that he wanted to.
Yeah,
Oh,
so he.
But you got a place for him.
Yeah, we got a
Place
place.
at
He
the
wants to
end.
stay on,
Yeah,
yes.
Oh,
we
okay.
have to, okay.
Yeah, I thought we filled the bill, like I said. All right, that's fine with me. Paula, does that square with your?
Well, I moved it.
It's not Paul's
So
fault.
it's
I'll
We
take
made-
didn't vote it.
Fall
We
for
have to
his
vote
chair.
it.
These are a lot bigger now.
Yeah, she's doing like, and Jerry.
All
I
right.
seconded it.
It was made and seconded, and I understand now, there's a
To vote it.
vacancy, and he never was off, so on and so forth. Enough
He
said.
wasn't really a vacancy, he didn't get his appointment thing in.
Didn't get his appointment thing.
Reappointment,
I
sorry.
didn't read his name.
It's a reappointment.
But this is not a problem, right?
No.
This is legit what we're doing here, okay?
Yes,
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The motion carries unanimously with one abstention. Okay, all right. This is getting harder, this job, I think. All right, so now we're going to
You
go.
have to say your little spiel.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go into executive session, so I'll sign these later. I have to read this. Pursuant to the provisions of MGL C30A, Section 21A, the chair declares an open meeting will have a detrimental effect to A, Donna Lambert versus Town of Westport discussion, B, Brito versus Town of Westport, C, Information Technology Department Head Keith Novo's salary discussion, D, the Highway Department staff and salary discussion, and E is to approve the executive session minutes of June 26th. I would need a roll call motion and,
So moved, Steve Willett.
Second hand boxer.
okay, and the roll call vote. Manny?
Manny Saws aye.
Aye, Steve Willett.
I, Dick Brewer.
Diane Buster.
We're now in executive session.